Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Today we are talking about who you should pull in the version 3.3 update. You just got the official banners coming out this update. In the version 3.3 live stream, we're gonna have Hyacine in phase 1, followed by the Herta, followed by Sexy Cat Lady, followed by Aglaea. So those are going to be our 4 banners, and today we're going to talk about who you should pick out of those 4 characters if you're maybe having a little bit of trouble deciding. Hopefully I can help you guys make that choice a little bit easier. So if you do enjoy videos like these, make sure to subscribe to the channel. And boys, let's talk about which characters you should pick. Now, I already got 2 on party, Aglaea the Herta, but I want to start with the 2 that are not officially released yet. First of which is Hyacine, who is the latest 3.3 healer character, who, if you want my honest recommendation on if you should pull her or not, I think it's very circumstantial. Now, she's a character whose whole intention is to work with Castris. She heals HP for a team-wide heal, and she also burns through her own HP on her summon, which is 2 great things for Castris, because Castris relies on gaining and losing HP. Those are the 2 things that make her the best. So Hyacine is really good for her because she does both of those things. Not to mention, she adds another summon to the field, which is just a 6th, 7th, or even 8th character that Castris is able to take HP from, which makes her even better. So specifically, if you do own a Rice Ball, this is a phenomenal pickup for your account. She's going to be the best in slot healer for that team comp without a doubt, and she can replace anyone here and do quite a bit. Now, let's talk about maybe a context where you don't have Rice Ball, because that is some players, not a ton of them, but definitely some. If you do not have her, I would not recommend her as strongly. She is made specifically to pair with that character. She can work with other HP scaling DPSs. Some examples include both and Blade, and possibly more destruction characters in the future, because we are getting more destruction characters. For example, Kekvin, who is coming in a later update. So will Hyacine potentially be able to work with those characters? Well, right now, it's a little hard to predict. I would predict that she's going to be pretty future-proof, at least through the 3.0 updates or 3.xx updates. Past that, it's going to be hard to predict. And I think another big question is she game-changing enough to be worth all of your summons if you're a free-to-play or someone like that, and you're deciding between her and someone else? Well, I don't necessarily think that's the case. To be honest, all healers basically do the same thing, which is heal. And if you don't have any HP scaling DPSs, then she really doesn't provide that many buffs. However, I think HP scaling DPSs is the direction the game is going in the current meta of Honkai Star Rail, and she will be probably the staple of sustain in a lot of those teams. Not to mention the fact she also does quite a bit of damage. I don't know if she's going to do the same amount of damage as someone like a Gallagher or a Ling Sha would do. It's hard to say, but a little additional damage is never bad on a healer. But anyways, my friends, that is Hyacine for you. Let's move on to the next unit, Sexy Cat Lady, who is the new Acheron team user debuffer, gives Acheron things for her ult. It's all great. You love to see what Cipher's going to do. She kind of balances what was the power differential between Acheron and some of the version 3 DPSs. She kind of helps this team quite a bit. She allows Acheron to get more ults. She does a lot of damage herself. She kind of fills that sub DPS role that maybe you would put someone like a Zhao Q in here, or you may put a silver role for Pela in this team comp. She would then take that slot. Now, the best in slot team is going to be the one that they're showing on screen here, which is going to be this Cipher, Acheron, Zhao Q, Adventurine comp. Maybe you could switch Adventurine out. There might be a better sustain there, but I think those other 3 are pretty staple for Acheron, and this is going to be the best Acheron team possible, and really help the Emanator of Nihility be an Emanator of Nihility. So if you do have Acheron, she's a great pickup, especially if you don't have Zhao Q already, which, like, me personally, like, I ain't got a Zhao Q. I ain't got one. So I'm now even more tempted to pick up this character for my Acheron. Now, on top of applying debuff, she does quite a lot of stuff, and she actually doesn't work with just Acheron. There are other good characters for her, which we'll get a little more into. Because she does do follow-ups like we talked about, she's actually going to be really good for Fei Zhao, or potentially good. It's hard to say, because it's hard to predict how many follow-ups she will do in comparison to maybe somebody like a Topaz or somebody like a Mozzarella. It's hard to really say, but we do know she's going to get those follow-up attacks off and flip the coin at the enemy in a very cool fashion. But yeah, to get a little more into her kit, she basically like takes the coins from the enemies, and anytime your allies deal damage, she gains coins. She reflects those coins back. Her ultimate does true damage based on the amount of damage you've done so far. And as we're going to see here, you're going to use up all the coins that you have accumulated over the time of battle, and then your count is going to reset. So the fact that she has true damage in her kit is another big benefit as well. Now, I will say, though, I think this is another character that, if you're really meta-defining, would be a very debatable pull, because she's not good, particularly with, like, the current meta teams, which are, like, Casterus teams, the Herta teams. I mean, she's not terrible in them, right? But she was definitely meant to fill a role in a team where you would take Topaz out and you would put Cipher in, or you would go to an Acheron team and you would take Pela out, put Cipher in. That's kind of the ideal role she wants to fill. So if you have those teams for her, I think she's a strong pickup. If you lack options for Acheron and you don't have important supports for her, like Zhao Q, for example, then Cipher becomes 10 times more valuable. But that aside, boys, let's move into the characters we do own right now. Let's start out with Aglaea. I think Aglaea is probably who I would consider the fourth best pickup. And I say fourth best in a kind way, because I do consider Aglaea very, very valuable. She is one of the current best DPSs in the game. I think currently sitting in the top 4. Just because every new character put out is immediately a good character. Now, Aglaea does come with a lot of inherent problems in her kit, which is very, very unfortunate. And if you don't own things like a Sunday, she becomes a lot worse. The unfortunate part with Aglaea is that they created inherent flaws with her kit and her energy regeneration that can only be fixed through either getting her E1, getting a Sunday, or getting a Hoo-Hoo. Hoo-Hoo being this green-haired girl who restores energy. And that's one big problem with her. So Aglaea does lose a lot of her value if you don't have one of those things, either being her E1 or a Sunday to pair with her. So I would say those two things are pretty essential, or one of the two things. Now, the reason I say Aglaea is probably going to be a little less valuable than everyone else here, is she's not as universal, let's say. Hyacine will be able to be used in any single game mode, probably with almost any single team in the game. I mean, you can really fit healers anywhere you want, and they can pretty much work. So Hyacine is an example of a very universal unit. Cipher is a little less universal, but she has a lot of teams she can work with. We talked about Acheron and Fei Zhao in this, but I'm sure as the characters come out, we're going to find a lot more uses for them. The problem with Aglaea is that she isn't as universal. In pure fiction, she's just not as good. Just straight up. She sits in tier 1, which is fine, but other characters in tier 1 are Serval. So that says something. And then AP Shadow, I mean, 0.5 isn't bad. It just doesn't sit with like the top of the meta or the apex of characters right now. Not that Pridden is the be-all end-all, and I'm sure you can make it work with Aglaea in some of those endgame modes, but I think you would struggle a lot comparatively to using somebody like a Herta. Even in the new MOC, I don't think she's really good for either of these sides. Sure, you could probably make it work, but it's just way easier, way faster to just throw a Casterus in here and just throw a Herta in here. Not to mention, you don't have to do all the groundwork of getting a Sunday or getting any one. So, does it make her bad? Absolutely not. If you just love her character, pull her, without a doubt. But anyways, let's talk about who I honestly consider the best option of the next update. The Herta, who is the emanator of Erudition. I consider her the best option next update. If you don't already have her, I think she's a phenomenal pickup. Phenomenal pickup. I think they're going to continue to make characters around her like we've been seeing already with Anoxa. Jade, even before she came out, was a great character for the Herta, and I think we're going to continue down that Erudition path in the future, where we're going to see characters kind of made around the Herta and trying to buff her and make her better. Kind of like they're doing with Acheron, Fei Zhao, and some other characters right now. So, in that regard, she's very future-proof. Not only that, but she sits at the top of the tier for every single game mode in the game, and she's the only character who does that, I believe. At least in the DPS category, she is the only character that does that, and it's for good reason. She is phenomenal in every single one of the endgame modes without fail. She's Erudition, so she'll be good in all pure fictions. She's pretty easy to build. Even if you already have her, this Eidolon 1 is pretty damn good. I mean, at this point in the game, they're kind of making all the Eidolon 1s pretty good. And it's not like this is essential, but it's still a big buff to her damage. Not only that, but she's one of the best dressed characters in the game, if we're being real. She can work with pretty much any team in the game. not any team. That's an exaggeration. But all you need, a good healer, can legit be any healer in the game, or preservation, doesn't matter. You need another good erudition, which you can legit use free characters here. You can throw a Herta in this comp, and it won't be great, but it'll work. More preferably, you would have somebody like an Anoxa or a Jade who would be a little bit better, but you could definitely use free-to-play options as well. They work almost just as fine. The only one who would be a little weird would be Rappa, and Cheng Chui would also be pretty weird. But other than that, almost all the other eruditions work. Then, all you need for this 5th slot is a buffer. Preferably Tribby. Tribby is definitely the best one here. Depending on the content, you can use other characters. Robin's a great option. Sparkle can work. Bronya can work. Sunday can work. And then you just want any other Harmony here. Bang, you have an amazingly Herta team that can probably clear most endgame. And that's why I consider Herta the most valuable pickup. But that's just my take on 3.3. Let me know your own thoughts down in the comments below. Anyways, that's going to be all for me today. I hope you did enjoy this video. If you did, make sure to leave a little like down below. Subscribe if you're new. And I'm going to see you boys all in the next one. Peace.